Fearless. When a new baby is born, it's difficult to tell if it will grow up to be big or small or brave or scared of the dark and spiders. So sometimes babies get the wrong name. There are lots of people called Bruce who should probably be called Julian. There are even some people called Bruce who should be called Beryl, and others who should be called Fido. This is Lightning, Tiny, Cuddle Pie, Fang, Princess, Tubby. It's the same with dogs. So when the Claiborne Wilmots, who should have been called the Smiths, got Fearless as a puppy, it seemed to be a good name for him. Except Fearless wasn't. If a car backfired in the street, so did Fearless. House training was hard for Fearless. Bulldogs have big heads, but most of it is very thick bone. They can run into walls and hardly notice, but inside the thick bone there isn't much room for a brain. So Fearless had a terrible time understanding why it was all right to go on the grass, which Dad spent hours mowing, and not on the carpet, which his dad took no notice of at all. He was very careful never to go on the newspapers his mum left lying on the kitchen floor at night, in case she wanted to read them. He might have had a tiny nervous brain, but he had a huge heart and loved everyone. He even loved the vet, who stuck needles in him. He loved the vet so much, he once licked her contact lens out. After that, the vet always wore glasses when Fearless went to see her. Best of all, Fearless loved children, especially the small one that crawled around on the floor. She loved Fearless too, because when she tried to give her dolls a biscuit, nothing happened. But when she gave one to Fearless, he looked very happy and ate it. Fearless knew that it was his job to protect his family from all the frightening things in the world and be brave, even when he wasn't. There were scary things everywhere. When Mrs. Jones came to the house, a dangerous black handbag used to follow her and sit on the floor by her chair. Fearless would back away growling until his mum trapped the handbag under a cushion. He had to keep his eye on the broom too, because once he went to the laundry and it fell on him and tried to bite him. And as for the stairs, he just didn't want to think about them. He tried to climb them when he'd been a puppy and they had tripped him up and made him fall down on his head. Fearless was as soft as custard and wouldn't hurt a fly, except when he sat on one once and squashed it. But people who didn't know him used to cross the road because they thought he wanted to bite them, when really he was just smiling, "Hello." And then one night, Fearless lived up to his name. Everyone had gone to bed and forgotten to lock the back door. Fearless was lying in his bed by the fridge, watching the moonlight crawl across his dinner bowl when someone opened the door and came into the house. It wasn't one of his friends. It was a man in a funny hat that covered half his face. Fearless stood up and wagged his tail as the man picked up Mum's handbag. "Hello," Fearless said in his friendliest voice. The man stopped. He looked at Fearless, said a rude word and jumped on the table. "You're not supposed to put your feet on the table," said Fearless, but the man just heard big dog barks and looked scared. Fearless's dad heard the big barks too and came downstairs. Look, Dad, that naughty man's got his feet on the table," Fearless shouted, and he tried to jump up and pull at the man's shoelaces. The man leapt in the air, dropped the handbag and ran out the door. "Rude man," said Fearless to himself. "He didn't even say goodbye." "Who's a brave and fearless dog then?" said his dad, as he patted Fearless on the head and gave him a piece of cheese. Is that a trick question? Thought Fearless as he went back to sleep. The next day, his mum brought him a huge bone, which looked so frightening. Fearless had to bury it in the garden.